Before we get into today's episode, I want you to navigate, or you can do this by listening, of course. Navigate to the show notes. There is a link to the LinkedIn co-working group, and in there, there's a discussion going on about what to do in your co-working space on European Co-working Day. And part of what we talk about in this episode with Koder is the value or the secret value of a co-working space, whatever you want to call yourself, to the local area, and how so many people don't know about the value or even what a co-working. He talks about walking through past Blue Garage and not knowing what it is. And European Co-working Day is a great chance for people in Europe to articulate, if you like, the value of their co-working space to their local neighbourhood. And basically all you've got to do is put on an event and invite people, and it's as easy or difficult as that. In that video that's at the top of the LinkedIn group, we talk about 4 things you can do in your co-working space. And there are 4 things we spoke about at Unreasonable Connection here in London at Blue Garage, and they are not the only examples. So if the only thing you do is go and put your pin in the map for European Co-working Day, and there's every episode there's a link to European Co-working Day in our show notes, that will get the ball rolling. Imagine you can go to the map and instead of like 2 pins there's like 1,000 pins. That is the independent, affordable workspace, local neighborhood, co-working movement announcing itself and making itself more visible. And that's great for everybody. Let's get into the show. Hello, folks. We are back for another, I just got to get into it. It's the Co-working Values podcast, and we got Koder on. Koder, like, what are you known for, and what would you like to be known for?
Boy, my name's Codes, aka Koder. I'm known for my ability to put my memories and my experiences on record, make music essentially. And I'm also known for being a connector of people.
I'm jealous now. Like I'm a connector of people, but I can't do the music bit. So we met at Blue Garage, and we're going to get to what you're doing with Michael and Lewis. Is it Lewis or Louise? Like Louis. Yeah. We're going to put a link to this in the show notes, folks. But can you just tell us about Undeniable Studios and what that means? Because it's so much more than a place to go in studio, isn't it?
Yeah, for real. So Undeniable started in 2017, started as a record label. So originally it was Undeniable Records. And then that transformed into, okay, where are we going to record the music? I always had music studios. It was always something I needed as a musician. I was always like independent. I need my own place that I can make and create my own products. So then I had Undeniable Records, Undeniable Studios. Then it was like, okay, so what's happening on the media side? Who's filming? Who's editing? I was doing a lot of that with my team. So then we started Undeniable Films, created a whole ecosystem around Undeniable. So Undeniable Studios sits under a larger conglomerate called Undeniable. But it's the arm that I would say is the most active at the moment and where my attention mostly is. The others act more as vehicles for my own creativity, whereas Undeniable Studios is more of like a front-facing business, I'd say.
Where did you start? You used the word conglomerate there, like, what were you first doing? Like, were you busking in Tottenham Court Road Tube or singing in church?
No, I was doing youth clubs in the ends. I was in the ends, going to different youth clubs around, just getting my name around, just being an MC, always ready to just like drop bars at the drop of a hat. And started to kind of build a local buzz. Girls playing my songs at the back of the bus on the old Nokias and the old Sony Ericsson Walkmans. Like getting on the bus and girls are playing your song and they don't even know it's you. Like it was before.
Don't know that.
But that was before like social media, innit? So it was before someone could put a face to the name. So you had like social media platforms like Bebo, Facebook was new, but you had MySpace. So some people knew your face, but essentially it felt more important than the face at the time, innit? So sometimes I'll be traveling around Lewisham, people be playing my songs on bus, singing the words, and they didn't even know it was me. So I came up through that scene, being like hyper independent, recording myself, mixing myself through my Uncle Dennis's teaching and putting out my own music on MSN and kind of using MSN Messenger as like an early music distribution platform. Obviously, I know all these big fancy words back then, but for me back then, it was just about sending my music out to everybody on my contact list. And I had loads of people on my contact list at the time. And then I guess that mindset showed me early on the power of independence and the power of ownership. So that's something I carried with me. So the reason I can say words like conglomerate and stuff like that, it's not because I've done like a business course or anything like that. It's because I was taking risks. I was out there like betting on myself, and then I was coming across people that was like, actually, what you're doing should all sit under one thing called a conglomerate. And I'm like, oh, what's a conglomerate? And they're like, oh, it's a larger company that owns subsidiaries. And I'm like, what's a subsidiary? So I was learning all this stuff in real time. But before I was learning this stuff, I had things in place, you know? So, and that was just from being like a student of life, just bumping my head.
And when you're on the bus, like, were you, I just like making music, like I just like drawing in my book, or were you like, I want to, you know, I want to have a conglomerate one day. I want, like, what was it? Was it this urge to create, which is obviously what I wanted you to say, but, or was it like, this is my career, I can't see myself working in Marks and Spencer's on the door or something, you know, like.
Yeah, for me, it was my career. It was just like, I'm going to bet everything I can on this. You know, there was no other way in my brain that made sense, you know? So when it came to having a record label, or when I had Hazard Crew with my cousins when I was like 10, that was our first entity called Hazard Crew. And, you know, we was thinking about marketing, promotion. We was burning blank CDs and shopping them around the family and artwork. And this is before we even knew what the word marketing meant. We just was thinking about, we have a product, we want as much people to hear it as possible. We weren't even thinking about making money. It was just, we love this and we want more people to love it. And that obviously transforms and helps shape how my mind started to develop throughout my career, around the same kind of independence and the same kind of mechanism of wanting to be able to bring people into my world.
And you said Uncle Dennis there, like what did Uncle Dennis, was he just like an uncle who liked buying hi-fi equipment, or was he, you know, the producer for U2 or something?
Nah, so he's just my uncle who liked music. So he had like a studio in his front room at the time. He lived around the corner from me in Brockley. And me and his kids, like, we grew up together, my cousins. So when he found out that I was into music, he taught me the basics of like how to like record myself and how to use a mixer and how to use, I think it was Nuendo or Cubase at the time. And basically like my journey of self-sufficiency kind of started it started at my Auntie Carmen's, but I'd say it developed to like, I'm going to take this as a career level at my Uncle Dennis's, because before that, I would record music with Hazard Crew at age of 10, 11 by getting a little Windows microphone that looks like a tadpole. And we used to put it next to the speaker, and the beat would come out of the speaker, and then we would rap with the microphone right next to the speaker so it could pick up the beat and our voice. And that was just what I thought music studios was. Then I went to my Uncle Dennis's and he's like, no, this is a microphone, this is a mixer, this is an interface, this is a DAW, this is a DAW, this is how you record yourself. So it transformed from like just being young and experimenting to like, oh no, this is how you do it on a more professional level. And my Uncle Dennis gave me them early skills and early lessons, and took time out. You know, I've got older, so I might be his age that he was at when he was teaching me this stuff. So he had a lot of patience, you know, to like I must have been 14 or 15 at the time, or maybe 13, 14, 15, to have like patience to kind of like teach me, not knowing like what I was going to become today, just being like, you're my nephew, I'm going to teach you how to use all this equipment, you know?
So when you were 14, I mean, what were you listening to? Were you like carrying around a Walkman or a record player? Like what was in your ears all the time? Or
so 14 would have been an MP3 player, like a UE MP3 player, LimeWire, loads of like illegally downloaded songs.
On
it would have been like,
or whatever it was.
Yes, again?
I can't remember. There was a website.
No, it was Napster actually.
Napster.
Yeah, I was on Napster. So it would have been, do you know what? It would have been Craig David. It would have been So Solid Crew.
Craig David. Can I get a rewind?
Yeah, all of that. Early.
Was it 21 Seconds to Go?
Yeah, that was
So Solid singing Crew. Immediately.
God, that was So Solid Crew. It was Genius Crew. It was Wiley and Pay As You Go Crew, early Dizzee Rascal. America would have been, I can't say I was like early on Jay-Z and stuff. He's my favorite rapper now, but I wasn't like a hip hop kid. I was a very like UK garage or like super pop, like Britney Spears or something, or like S Club 7. Like I didn't really have
S Club 7.
Yeah, I was listening to S Club. They were, are you mad? S Club 7.
I used to work on this special news program, and the kids loved S Club 7. And we used to go and see S Club 7 and the other one, Steps, a lot. And I secretly really enjoyed it because you had all the, you know,
yeah, I'm trying to do the dance here, folks, but
Yeah.
there was so much dance. All the routine dancing was
Man, it was
amazing.
lit. S Club 7 was lit, man. All of
Didn't
that.
think you'd say that.
No,
Blazing Squad as
I
well.
was a pop kid because I didn't have like Sky and cable in my house. So whatever came on top of the pops or whatever was like on radio commercially was what I was listening to. And then I had pirate radio. So it was either like super pirate radio with someone who was totally like no one knew about, that was super underground, or it was like S Club 7. I didn't really have a hip hop upbringing.
So so living in London, which radio station did you listen to? Was it Kiss?
It
Or
would have been
Capital?
it would have been SFM very early on.
Yeah.
It would have been on Top FM whenever I could find it on the dial. But I would say I landed on Kiss 100 Logan Sama show. Like that was the only grime show that was on like what I would say was on commercial radio. Kiss 100
Kiss
Logan
used to be
Sama.
great. Like in the 90s, because it used to be a pirate radio station, and then that was like you were saying that in the 90s, it was the only place you could hear like really good house music and proper hip hop, not like cheesy hip hop music, like proper hip hop music with swear words and everything.
Yeah, I get you.
And now it's all kind of like owned by the same company. So what with all that, I think that's enough setting the scene, folks. Like when you were 20, what were you doing? Were you still going around youth clubs and spitting rhymes? Or?
When I was 20, I was I'd finished college, and I started a record label with my boy. His name's Age, and we started a record label called Indigo Child Records, and that was because we came across the idea of indigo children, and we felt like we would like these indigo children, and then we started Indigo children at the time were like children that were super gifted and we just felt special. It was like, we're the special kids, you know?
Yep,
we're the special kids. So like that was Indigo Child.
I'm not different, I'm special.
No, literally. So that was Indigo Child at that time. So there was artists like Nadia Rose, Sam Tompkins, who are super established now, who would have came from that era. Angelo, who would have came from my uncle's studio at the back of my nan's house. And we just had Indigo Child Records, and we would put out music on there. And we'd put our own shows on, we'd go to venues, promote the show ourselves, make the flyers, put out the music. Like, it was an independent machine at the time. And it was at a time when a lot of people was relying on major record labels, but we were just, again, we didn't understand the business of things, but we just knew how we wanted to feel and how the flexibility we wanted. We wanted to be able to make decisions when we wanted to make them that felt right to us. So we had Indigo Child Records, and we was printing up a bunch of CDs. I was putting out my mixtape called The Calm. So it was we had 2 blank CD burners, like I think they could burn like 10 each, and we'd just sit there burning and then go around shopping them to different people. And yeah, that was it really. It was social media was forming, or it was a thing, but it was still about like performing and getting your name out there and having a room full of people that have never seen you before, and having to kind of call it the Coderverse now, but bringing them into the Coderverse.
So that, I love that. I've like the Bernie verse, but no one knows where it is. But it's in my head. But it's really important. I mean, this is part of the Bernie verse. Well, how hard is it to get a room full of people that don't know you? Because, you know, if I said I'm doing a stand-up comedy routine, 5 of my mates would come, but no one would come, you know, or I'm playing guitar. But trying to reach people with your craft or your art outside of your, you know, sphere of influence. And that's not what I mean. Like, outside people who know you, because there's people that will turn up just because it's you and then want to support you. And I've been to loads of things where I probably wouldn't go to that if it was someone else, but I want to go and support my mate's act or their photography exhibition or something like that. Like, how do you do that?
Well, you had to kind of be on bigger shows. So you had to figure out what were the shows that people were attending all the time. So there was one called I Love Live. There was Sick a Bit. There was Vibes With Us. There was a bunch of places that had like regular shows, which meant they already had audiences there that just believed in the brand and was going to discover new music, or going sometimes to see their favorite artists that would be on the lineup. So sometimes lineups would have like 9 acts on it. So you'd go, you'd link with those promoters, you'd put yourself forward, get on that lineup, and your sole objective would be to convert as much people in that room to bring them into your world, you know? So that's how I would do it. I'd go on the shows. Sometimes I would open up for bigger artists. Like I remember opening up for Charlie XCX. Yeah, loads of different artists, just opening up for them. And then eventually like putting on my own shows. So being able to like do the rollouts to family and friends, but I used to always have this policy where it was like, you have to bring someone who's never heard of Koder. So if you wanted a free ticket or you was on the guest list, the rule was you had to bring someone who'd never heard of me before. You couldn't be like, oh, I'm going to bring a mutual friend. I'm like, no, it has to be someone that had never heard of Koder before.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And where was your first show like that? Or one of the first shows?
One of my first shows would have been, one of the memorable ones would have been like Sick a Bit A Club. So A Club was a collective I was in, and Sick a Bit was like the most popular up and coming show at the time. So if you was like people like Stormzy and, you know, early people like that have been on like those early Sick a Bit lineups, you know. So
wow,
that's where you'd go and be on that lineup if you was, you know, taking your career to the next level.
Was that when he was still wearing his red tracksuit?
It would have been, yeah, around those times. It would have been just before that. Yeah, just before he started taking off. Like, that was the platform we all went to. So those are some of my most memorable moments, because you'd visibly get to see an audience that was into your type of music engage with it. You know, like you got to kind of test whether that record was hot or not because of people's reactions, you know? So that would be like the first time I'd say that I got to, that I remember going and like having to convert the crowd every time, to the point where I eventually became like the headline act of Sick a Bit. And it was just insane. Like, it was just mosh pits, crowd going crazy. Like, they knew my lyrics. Yeah, it was mad.
I always imagine like when you know, get to a point where people can finish. I remember going to see Naughty by Nature at Hammersmith Pally, and I think it's Trey would be like hip hop, and everyone would go, oh, and like just, you know, being in the audience hearing that was enough. Yeah. And I imagine being on stage and people finish the line for you.
Magnet, like you said, it's a mad feeling, and I miss it. So that's why this year I'm going to hit the road again on my Circle the Ends tour. I'm going back on the road because I miss that feeling. You know, I've been deep in business world and been making progress on this side, but I miss being out there and like touching the people and just feeling that energy of being on stage, and, you know, I miss that.
So that's a good point, because we're going to talk about the Blue Garage bit in a minute, but I'm making him do this. Like, he's looking for venues to go and perform in like, it's a bit like Sofa Sounds, but it's like Koder Sounds. And I want him to go and do this in co-working spaces, but can you go and say your requirements and say, because a little tour of co-working spaces in neighborhoods would be a good thing to do. That's my idea.
I'm down. Like,
if it takes off,
I'm down. Like, Bernie, if Bernie wants to be the promoter for it, I'm down. Like, you can get me in those co-working spaces. To be a promoter. You can be my co-working promoter, where we get in co-working spaces, you know. But yeah, essentially, I'll be on that. I'm actually being serious. Like, I'll be on exploring that, because you got the network and I've got the.
I got the brains, you got the power. Let's. So if someone's going to perform, if someone's going to host you in their co-working space for a night of music, what do you need?
Just PA system and a microphone, really, and just being able to plug in equipment. Like, sometimes I have like a drum machine, PA speakers, I've got them, so I can travel with them, or I could hire some local to you, or they would just have some local, we can get some local, and then I just bring my film team, and that's it.
So, you know, a lot of people have podcast studios. It'd be like a podcast studio session, but with a bigger audience and a bit more jumping.
Yeah, it'll be good, because we can have a chat, because I've got, you know, I'm in the space world a bit. Well, not even a bit, I'm in it, and music. So it's interesting. We can do music and have a chat as well about the future of co-working. And my name's Koder as well, so it's like co-working, Koder, yeah.
Koder working. Yeah, I'm gonna go and get that domain in 10 seconds. So lead it on. I've been in spaces in the last like 15 years of co-working. I've been in spaces that are just like, hello, would you like a desk? Yes, that's really nice. You know, we've got some whatever, you know, that kind of thing. And then I've been in spaces where it's not necessarily to do with how the furniture looks and everything, but there's a lot of friction in there, because people are like creating and working things out. And, you know, you sit down for lunch and someone's going, oh, I'm really like the last chapter of my book's not going, or my song's not coming through, or I'm trying to make this video, and people go, oh, have you tried this? And it's like a throwaway comment at a table. And then someone goes back and goes, oh yeah, you know, that worked. And there's this energy that is, and I don't mean like creative as in, hi, we're the creative industries, you know, we're all like around Soho and Charlotte Street drinking champagne. It's like the people kind of like who have a headache because they haven't created that day. And there's loads of, I want to, and I hope that co-working spaces like Blue Garage, which we'll get to in a second, I keep promising that, folks, but where everything's mashed together and you can be creative in your neighborhood. And I've met so many people who travel into town because they think that's where all the creatives are. And that is true to a certain extent. They all go and sit around, is it Ace Hotel or whatever it was in
I remember.
in
So it's called
Shoreditch?
it's called the 100 now. Yeah.
So they all sit there because you're more likely to bump into Koder in there than you are in Ilford in
Facts.
Redbridge. But if everyone stayed in the neighbourhood, like you bump into each other there. So I hope that what you folks are doing in Blue Garage will be one of those things. So what are you doing? What are you doing in Blue Garage?
So let's talk about the Untitled Studios. We 10,000 hours free studio time to the local community in our Brockley location, right? And that helped launch careers and stuff like that. But also how people were using the space. Sometimes people were using it to make music. Sometimes people were just using it to have meetings. Like that, those tiny rooms became like co-working spaces in themselves. And they also became delivery infrastructure. So we was working with Universal and different labels and brands to deliver youth-related projects in the space. So very quickly, I started to realize like, okay, I see this as a music studio, but a corporate brand or something sees this as a space that they can deliver programs, you know? The person down the road that comes there because their friend's recording, but they do work on their laptop, they see it as a co-working space, you know? So getting into that kind of mentality, and then also having my mentor be like Miguel, who was co-founder of WeWork, and him like being able to tell me, you know, the story that the world doesn't know, if that makes sense. Like I'm getting all of this information, and I'm like,
what is a bit? Cause you can't say Miguel from WeWork and we on a co-working values podcast and skip over it, you know? Because like, what have you picked up from him in a kind of in the context of what we're talking about here? Not like not like mainstream media bollocks, but like what have you picked up from him?
I would say the importance of community in a space, right? But the danger of what happens when things are very community-centric and revenues prioritized. So what I'm basically saying is like, there's the person who has there's the person who has the big heart, who wants to help everyone and wants to see community thrive, and it's about every single aspect of the community in the space. But then there's the revenue side, and sometimes those things contradict each other, right? And finding that balance is key, because it essentially shapes the type of people that come through the door, and it also shapes the perception of that space. I hope I'm making sense, but it's like, and also the power of scaling too quickly. You know, with Undeniable, it was Undeniable Studios, and it was Undeniable Sports, it was Undeniable everything, and it was like, wait, let's just focus on the MVP, which is Undeniable Studios, and let's focus on that, and then build that to a point where you can create other products and other things off the back of it based on there already being a demand for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like the whole, you know, there was a time where I had like 5 websites and I didn't do anything on any of them. This was a very long time ago, folks. I'm so sophisticated now. But I had like 5 websites because I wanted to do a food blog, a travel blog, you know, whatever it was blog. And like none of them went anywhere, because I'd have a conversation like this and I'd start, I don't know, a Miguel blog or something. And I want to go back to, I think that's a really important point, and go back to that community thing as well. Is there's always this tension, because I've been part of projects where everyone's like, it's for everybody, and it's so well intentioned, but like there's no money. It's like you go to the till, and there's like no money to buy tea bags, let alone pay the power bill. So and then there's the whole gentrification thing, because there's like, I'm just trying to think of, as I'm saying, I'm stalling because all these names of places are coming into my head and I can't really say them because it's horrible. But there's places that open up and they completely change the area. So that becomes a kind of affluence thing, you know, like are you rich enough? Is that position? Because there's like you running around, you know, with your MP3 player, and you know, you would probably have got into Blue Garage, but you wouldn't have got into a WeWork. And you're denied access on economic grounds. And you've got to be realistic here, because, you know, you're either going to buy, you know, you're going to buy a Bentley if you have the money to buy a Bentley. It's not that kind of, but I've just come across, you know, a lot of people in urban MBA would not get into a co-working space because they wouldn't even know that it was for them because of the way it's positioned and communicated. So
There's different barriers to entry, innit?
you know,
And again,
that's
like
it.
this is why one of my reasons why I wanted to come on here as well, because I'm an explorer in my heart, innit? So I'm always gonna move into different industries, and my curiosity will take me around the world. So I'm curious enough to want to explore co-working spaces, and to also understand that before I didn't see myself being a WeWork. Do you get what I mean? But then when I met him, I was like, oh, like we're clicking differently. Like, of course I could be there, but actually I want to start my own type of situation. Do you get what I'm saying? Because again, me being an explorer and curious, that will always make me stumble across someone like Miguel and end up in a WeWork or whatever. But not everyone's as curious. Some people need it more like front facing. Like, this is for creatives from X, Y, Z. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes people do need it spelled out. And that's one of my things about wanting to work with Blue Garage, having that space in Lewisham that I wasn't completely aware of, and then going there and finding so many touch points that I can connect with, like fashion, tech, like loads of different things and type of people that are in the space. I'm like, okay, well, I need to come in with Louis and make this space not have the same kind of challenges that other places face, where they just don't come across inviting to enough different type of people, you know. And I don't want something in my ends to feel like that when I've been there, and I haven't felt like that when I've been there. There's places you go to and you feel like, okay, this don't feel like it's for me. You know what I'm saying? But Blue Garage didn't give me that feeling. It felt like, oh, people just need to know this place exists, you know, outside of the people that already know that it exists. But like, people from my world need to know this place exists, because if they do, like, they're gonna come in and they're gonna utilize it, you know?
I've met so many people along the way, even before I knew anything about co-working, and they go, if only there was a place where, like, I haven't done my thing because I haven't got £500 to buy a sewing machine, or however much they cost. But, you know, like, there's no access to all those. In fact, if you think about what you would need to put on a show, you need costumes and music and dry ice and lighting and everything like that. And there's people that can make things, but they don't, you know, they live in an apartment, so they haven't got the space to have that kind of stuff. And I know, places like that, you know, if there really was a Blue Garage type thing in more places, I think, as well as it's going to be, you know, the way tech and everything and the world of work is changing, like being creative. You know, like, was it in the front of your website? If you always have ideas, you'll be okay.
No, you're never broke if you got.
Yeah, and I don't mean ideas like Uber and, you know, whatever it is, Spotify, but like, you know, I want to make something. That whole kind of artisan thing. You know, I'd rather buy a CD off you than, you know, Milli Vanilli, whatever it is nowadays. You know, and I'd rather go to a concert by someone who is still creating and at the edge of it. And I'd rather buy a plate that, you know, has a bit of a story to it. I'm getting all,
but like, for me, ideas are currency, you know, and you're never broke if you got ideas. Isn't just attached to money. It's attached to my belief that ideas are currency, and the ability to back and bring an idea to life is a form of currency, and different currencies have different value in different countries and stuff, and it depends, you know, what you do with that idea that ultimately changes whether it's an Uber or whether it's something that isn't Uber, but it brings as much joy to you and you know, whatever. But I'm just a believer that, like, ideas, that everything we're looking at around us came from an idea. So for me, like, it is a currency within itself, and it's a lot of the reasons why I've been able to find success in different pockets is because of my ideas. It's like I get brought into a space like Blue Garage and I'm leading with my ideas. I meet Miguel and it's like my ideas, music, it's my ideas. A lot of my ideas have helped shape the reality I live in today. So that's why I'm always like, you're never broke if you got ideas, because I'm a living testament to it. And so many of us are, you know.
Do you have, this is going to turn into like a Creative Mornings podcast now, but like, I kind of, like, at the moment, there's a lot of things I've been thinking about for years all popping up in the same place. So all the dots are joining. So, you know, I had an idea for this in 2014 while going up an escalator in Lakeside Shopping Centre, and I haven't done anything with it, and it suddenly pops up, you know, like last week. And do you have do you have a, like, do you have a gestation percolation thing, or do they all fire off at the same
They
time?
all could, man. Like, but it's because they all stem from like the same pillars, if that makes sense. Like creativity, community, like, you know, there's certain pillars that I have, whether conscious or subconscious, that like all the ideas just align to the same telephone pole or same like satellite dish. You know what I mean? It all stems from like creative expression and wanting to see creativity expressed in some shape or form. You know, and wanting to either be the person who expresses it or represent that.
For me, it's joining all the dots, like it's always got something to do with people, food, and music. And so when there's all those things, like that's why we had that food at Blue Garage, because it's, you know, we could have got cheese and ham sandwiches from Marks and Spencer's, but it had to be that food. Those people,
like, people don't take into consideration like those things are like afterthoughts for people. Oh, like, yeah, people need to eat. Like, we just get some sandwiches, but that kind of experience and the woman coming up and speaking about, you know, the history of the, you know, running in her family and stuff like that, for me, context is, I'm a context freak. Like, I love context. And if I could literally like press this thing here, they could tell me like where it was from, how it was sourced, like I would love it, because I'm just a context guy. So when I went and I experienced the food and the woman giving the context, it was like I had a different level of appreciation for the food. Even being Caribbean myself, that's not food I don't have at home, but there was a different appreciation for like what had gone into this specific food. You know?
I love that. And then like here in where I live, there's like 5 coffee shops within like less than half a mile of me that they roast their own coffee. And when you go in there, like when I was in London, I went to Canary Wharf and everything's geared, even if it says like local roastery, everything's geared to give you that coffee as quickly as possible. And every day I go for a coffee here, and you just can't go for a coffee. You have to go in here like, oh, this was it. I met this bloke here, and this is how it was made. And there's a whole story of why they started the roastery. And this is a new grind we've got. And then making it in the thing. So let's wrap up, because we still managed not to talk about Blue Garage. What are you doing there?
Cool.
And with Louis.
So we've got a program called Creatives in Residence, and me and Louis are the first creatives in residence. So it's a program where we're going to come up with an idea and create a commercially viable product or products. You at the Blue Garage space and network as well. One of the things we're doing is launching an Undeniable Studios in the space. So we're going to put a music studio in Blue Garage, and that music studio will be open for commercial use as well. And we're also going to be planning the Circle the Ends tour in the space, which is my own personal tour. So like the merch, the signage, and all of the physical products that can be made, which everything can be made at Blue Garage, will be made there. And we're also talking to a big artist at the moment about doing a collaboration with us whilst we're doing our Creatives in Residence as well. Also using the space to do brand activations, create like more of a cultural programming as well. And also being able to bring in, I come from brand partnerships, so being able to bring in brand partnerships to people that are residents in Blue Garage. So say, for example, there's a fashion designer who designs shoes, being able to go to my network of Adidas or, I don't know, New Balance or whoever else is in my network and say, hey, you can actually prototype product here, you know? So also bringing in business to Blue Garage by like looking at the people they have in there as a talent roster that Undeniable can represent and get partnerships for. So it's partnerships, it's a commercial studio, and it's creating commercial product there. And ultimately, it's unlocking the creative potential of the community around Blue Garage as well, and raising the awareness, because a lot of people still are yet to hear about Blue Garage in Lewisham. So having me and Louis in there, we're both good examples of people who have found some sort of success from the community. So having us as kind of like flagship creatives in the space is going to invite other creatives to want to use the space as well.
That's one of my biggest hopes for things like that. And I've seen other projects like this over the years, is people in the neighbourhood going, I can go in there and do that. You know, if I, you know, where I lived in Ilford for like 15 years, there was things going on, but there was no Blue Garage or co-working space or anything like that. And you always had to like leave the area.
Yeah,
to go and find, you know, go and sit on the sofa in Ace Hotel, and not on the off chance of, and to have it in your neighbourhood, especially for like young people, if you like can rock out of your school or sixth form college and go into somewhere like Blue Garage and carry on creating. Imagine
Exactly.
that, what that would do
Exactly.
for your
Like it's a
and your
super
career over time.
good opportunity to, like, as I said, just unlock that local. We say fostering local greatness at Undeniable. Like, it's gonna give us another chance to do it. Like, we've done it in Brockley, we've done it in Shaw, and it's now like main Lewisham doing that. And the model is proven, it's been tested, and I'm a product of it. So being able to do it in main Lewisham and having Michael's back in and Alan's back in, like, has been good because they just get it and they're trusting us. So my hope is, not even my hope, my drive and my commitment is for other co-working spaces that are forward thinking in the way of, like, looking how they could maximize certain parts of their space commercially or creatively, like having conversations, because if I'm able to set up an Undeniable Studios in different co-working spaces, then they can also start to also attract that creativity in that way, like musical creativity, artistic creativity into their spaces. And as well, what you start to realize is you can, from a business angle as well, like, you can get in on IP as well, because if stuff's being made in your space, there is situations where, you could co-own IP, or you can just have a different arm of your business where, like, this commercially successful product or whatever product has come from this space, and it just brings another layer of depth to your co-working space as well.
There's too many to list, but I know things that have started in co-working spaces that people use every day, and it's like so amazing to be, like Kit, which is ConvertKit, started in a co-working space in the States, and I don't know if they're still there anymore, but it's very cool to say that. We should. So where can we track you down and all those kind of things?
So Koder, where can we track you down and hunt you down online and all those type of things?
Just Undeniable spelt like it is in the English dictionary, in the Oxford Dictionary. And then Koder, Koder, at undeniable.uk. You can just drop me an email. I'm there. I'm on Instagram as Big Codes, BIGKODEZ, across all social media. So yeah, that's my email, my social, and my website. So you should be able to lock into one of those three.
So, folks, as a big reveal at the end of the podcast, we met Koder at Blue Garage on the 24th, and we did Unreasonable Connection, and we're doing that again in Space 4 on May the 19th. And Koder and other people from that whole show are going to be there. So, if people bump into you at Space 4, what do you want them to ask you about starting an Undeniable studio?
I'd say, like, let's talk about starting Undeniable Studios in their co-working space, and being able to give them the framework of like how to build that, and how to foster that local greatness wherever they're based.
That's great. There's a lot of good stuff that's come out of Space 4. I've known it since it's begun, and it was one of the first affordable workspaces in the Islington program. And one of the best things that everyone knows is the Founders and Coders was born there, which is a coding mentoring program. And also every Wednesday for like nearly 10 years now, they've done a community lunch where they just, loads of people chuck £5 in a bowl in the old days when we had money, and then they go to a local restaurant and
I love that.
Here's a big pile of cash. How much food can we get for that? And take it back. I love it. All right, folks, really appreciate your time. Great to meet you at Blue Garage. And ladies and gentlemen, we are going to end up here. If you go to the show notes, there's how to get hold of Koder.
Soon. Love. Undeniable, baby.
Hell's Teeth Batman. I wish I could say undeniable, baby, and sound as cool as Koder. So this is the little link in the show notes bit. There's everything Koder talked about will be in the show notes for this episode, and you can find that on our website. We now moved the podcast to londoncoworkingassembly.com, and there'll be a little button on the left-hand side of the website where you can see these show notes. Coming up on the 6th of May, as we talked about, is European Co-working Day, and we'll link to a post in there which tells you how to do an actionism screening, or I say screaming by mistake. Probably got about, at the time of posting this, there's about 10 places in the UK and Europe that have signed up to host one of those on European Co-working Day. It's a really, really worthwhile way to instigate a conversation in your co-working space. And of course, there is the Unreasonable Connection event back on the May the 19th at the time of recording, and there's a link to buy tickets to that in the show notes too. And also come and participate in a LinkedIn co-working group. There's only 8,000 people in there, and when even just
10 more people participate in there, the amount of people that actually visit the group goes from like a few hundred to over 1,000. So the more, I don't know if any of you know this by, running a co-working space or community, but the more people that show up and tinker a little bit, the more people will come and join in. Anyway, thank you for your time and attention today, wherever you are in the world. Be careful out there. It is a jungle.